better weather than we have. And guys, look who's here. Ladies and gentlemen, I cross the fingers so strong it could only happen. Nice to have you on board, Kevin. How are you doing?
Zaki, I'm doing great, but technology isn't always our friend. And
You know,
today it was not. Yesterday, I had major updates, security updates, right, on
yeah.
Apple, on both phone and on the computer. And today, nothing works. I finally took your approach with the mobile, but it still wouldn't work on mobile. But I
Mm.
copied the link, brought it back to my MacBook, opened Safari, put the link in, and now we're here. So why it wouldn't work, we don't know.
You know what? Whatever. You are now live with us. Okay.
Yes,
I
very
started
excited.
a few seconds ago. No worry, Kevin. I'm so glad to have you during this live session. I know that there were a lot of people expecting the session too, because it's like the end of the year, so you can be like summarizing maybe the year, and maybe look forward and do some
Mhm.
prediction. So my first question would be about a native live tool on LinkedIn. Do you think it's gonna happen? Because as I explained the audience, we need now to do it via Restream or another third-party tool. Do you think it could happen? Just first question, because you were
They are working on
having
it.
problems. They are
That's
working at it.
that's one of the reasons you've seen some changes in how video processes on LinkedIn. From our profile video, right, went away because
Yeah,
that was a
a few days
third
ago. Yeah.
party software.
Mm-hmm.
Same reason that the video now that we load to LinkedIn now has a cycle, and then
Yeah.
you have to, at the end of the video, you have to put play again or make a couple other choices. That's a native video component now. So
Mm.
before it was a third party software. LinkedIn's trying to get away from as much third party software as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's more secure or maybe more under your control. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they feel more secure that way, right? And it reduces the cost of doing business. So that's what they are getting after, is getting native video here today. Our experience today, if this had been native video, would not have happened, right? We would have been
Exactly.
able to log into LinkedIn and we would see each other. We might even be able to spend a few moments, because I have to ask you your pronunciation of your name.
DegrauX.
Is it Zaki or is it Javier? Because in
Xavier.
Texas, it's Javier.
Xavier, if you want. Xavier.
Xavier.
Yeah, that's
That
good.
would be my third choice because that's more Latin America for me. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah, yeah.
trying to figure that out, and my daughter fluent in French.
Is she?
Uh, yes, wonderful, incredible. She said, "Oh, it's probably Zaki, right?"
Okay, okay.
So I was
No,
like,
I would not
I,
recognize
I
it,
don't
to be
know.
honest.
When I went to your pronunciation, I couldn't pick up enough of it because it went so fast, right? And my apologies. I don't speak French.
No,
I
my apologies.
do
My English
English
is bad
to
too.
a degree. I do Texan really well, and I
Yeah,
do
yeah, I
Spanish.
heard it during a few live sessions. I heard it. I was afraid, like, please do not speak Texan during all life. Just speak English. That would be enough.
We won't
Okay,
say fixin'.
Kevin, I'm really, really happy and delighted to have you on this live session. I've been following you for so long that it feels like I know you a bit. And if I follow you closely, Kevin, it's because you are truly the global authority on LinkedIn feature. As Sarah Clay says recently, you are the new features guy here on LinkedIn. You track new feature like no one else, and even not only their appearances but also their disappearances, because sometimes it disappears.
Oh
You
yeah.
update this list on LinkedIn, but also for the past year, Kevin, you are working on YouTube. and he
Hmm.
shared
Hmm.
there some tips and tricks. I'll share the links during the session, of course, so people could also follow you. But
Fantastic.
first
Thank you.
question, Kevin. Um, does LinkedIn, which communicates not well, very well, not poorly, I assume. Do they pay for you? Do they pay for you doing this, or not at
No,
all?
no, but I've
No.
been on LinkedIn since 2005, active
Yeah,
almost daily, and it was easy then. It was a very simple site, right? It was almost a resume post. We couldn't even post stuff. We couldn't write articles. We couldn't do anything.
exactly.
We could communicate with Messenger, which is the exact same Messenger we have today, almost, right? Still terrible. Um, but I don't know. In a lot of ways, LinkedIn is a wonderful place, right?
Exactly.
And in many other ways, it is a place where we feel like we're in a community, right? We have home, we have friends. I always consider you a good friend. And I wanted you to know it is with my utmost respect. That's why I'm here, because I do respect everything you do. So,
Oh,
that's why
thank
we're
you
here.
very
But
much. Thank you. Thank you.
the other component of LinkedIn is because members are not the core customer.
Yeah,
We are actually the product of LinkedIn, right? They sell us.
it's a
It's a
good reminder here.
17, yeah, it's a $17 billion company, and $11 billion comes from selling members to other members. That to me is fascinating. And because of that, LinkedIn, they'll talk to recruiters. LinkedIn will talk to sales navigators. They'll talk to anybody but members, right? They're kind of like, you figure it out. That's why I started tracking new features and sharing them. I used to just track them for myself, and I've got files and files for the last, 20 years. I started sharing them because people kept asking me, what's that? What's this? What does that look like? What's going on here? So I just started making an article, right? And developing out that article, and it finally became part of the newsletter process. But sharing it has been a great maybe lift of burden, right? Because I now have somewhere I can go back and look, because I can't
Mhm.
remember them all. We've got 165 so far this year, and I'm working on trying to clarify 4 or 5 more. I think we'll be at 175 by the end of the year.
Okay.
LinkedIn doesn't communicate, right? Because they don't have to. We're not the customer. And so at the same time,
Mhm.
they don't pay me. No. Back to that question. It'd be wonderful if they did, but then they would probably have so many rules I couldn't say what I want to say,
Yeah,
because
yeah. You can
I,
stay critical
yeah, and I don't
regarding the
always
platform.
agree with everything they do. I love LinkedIn, but with any kind of love, right? There's also that, you could do better at this.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
You're right.
Sometimes we're the toughest on those that we love the most, right? So, yeah, I don't think I would like to be paid by them, because then they would have too many rules.
Yeah, I would suppose to. Okay, thank you. I asked the first question, but of course the audience can ask the questions too. I'll do my best also to share their questions, remarks, and comments. Of course, as some of you already started to do. First question from the audience would be from Linaire. As we both know Linaire, and there are a lot of
Absolutely.
other LinkedIn experts in the audience today. Linaire asked you if it's really been a year of record-breaking number in terms of new feature, or is it much more that the LinkedIn community has become better at spotting and reporting them? Um, Good question. Is it a record-breaking year first, and then what do you think? Do you think that because of there are no so many people and so many LinkedIn
Mhm.
experts, we are spotting every single change on the platform, or is it really new features that we have
It
here?
is really new features.
Yeah,
LinkedIn, because when they were purchased by Microsoft, right?
yeah,
Microsoft, very much an American business, everything has KPIs, right? You have to have your key performance indicators, and we're going to give you your key performance indicators, LinkedIn. And basically, they ramped from, you have to do 50 new features a year. That was a
Mm-hmm.
few years ago.
Yeah.
To now we want 100. Now we want 150, 175, whatever that. They don't tell us, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I do know from insiders have told me they have a new LinkedIn feature quota. So they have to produce a certain amount of features every year, and it's ramping up because Microsoft believes that the more LinkedIn evolves, right, the more value it has. Now, that may change in the coming year. We'll see, because I think the focus on LinkedIn is changing a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more towards bringing in more AI to do things.
Yeah, we'll speak later about it.
So, yeah, and AI also in the background, right, that we don't see,
Yeah. Okay.
that are technically new features. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're doing everything now from before you complete a post, before you hit the submit, they're already reading that post to see if there's anything in there that's naughty, right? That's against the agreement that we have with LinkedIn. We won't talk about that. We won't do that. They're already looking at that within milliseconds, and they can stop that post, show it to nobody. You think you posted it, nobody's going to see it. It goes away, or they might even dissolve the post completely. They're doing that all by AI. So they're doing a lot of new features now that we're not even going to see
Yeah.
in this realm of AI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think in that sense, we may see maybe fewer next year or the same amount, but I don't think it'll ever go back to 20 a year like it used to be for the first 10 years. I was on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. It was probably about 5 to 10 a year. And then 5 years after that, it became about 20 a year. And then it started to ramp up.
Yeah.
If you look at the last 5 years of the list that I've been creating, the new LinkedIn feature list, you can see the scale up. And I
Mm-hmm.
have to say, it's not me doing the list. It is a group of, I always say, eagle eyes, right? And sharing hearts. And they bring stuff to me. Often they're not sure what it is, but it's different. So I always tell people, if you see something that's different, you don't know what it is, take a screenshot. When you click on it, take the next screenshot, right? And we'll figure it out. And so I'm trying to figure out a few right now that, of course, LinkedIn has no record of, right? You talk to
Mm-hmm.
help, they don't know what you're talking about. You go to the help questions, there's no record of it, or there's a title, but no information, right? So
Exactly.
you're on the right track at least. But that's a big piece of this. And, I think that if I didn't start doing that, I would not be able to add on, because I probably get 20% of the new LinkedIn features come from people bringing them to me.
Okay. Okay.
So, it helps me because the way LinkedIn does things, and maybe this is a good segue into something, the actual rollout of features, right? Everybody always thinks they're last, right?
Mm.
LinkedIn doesn't like me, and it's actually not true. But LinkedIn has found out that when they roll out a new feature to somebody, about 70% of the people do not realize they have the new feature for about 3 months.
Exactly.
So often you have it, you just didn't know, right? Because nobody told you had it. They didn't tell you. Nobody else told you. Now, what LinkedIn does is it does what's called a 5-wave.
Could you
So,
explain this? Because
yes,
sometimes I'm one of those criticizing the speed of the rollout of the new features. So how do you explain it so slow when they roll out a new feature? And do you think it's gonna accelerate during the next month
yeah.
because of the AI, or I don't know in
An
which way it
average,
could
and
happen?
it's funny because average rollout is 30 to 90 days. We
Okay.
all know there's some crazy rollouts like dark mode took a year and a
Yeah.
half to roll out, right? That was a slow rollout. What they do during a rollout is they do it in 5 waves. Okay. Those waves are randomized. You're randomly picked for a wave unless there's some legal restrictions, right? If it could only be done in these countries, then those would be first, right? The rest of the world might be held off. EU's got some data laws that LinkedIn sometimes runs into and has to figure out, right? So that can be a delay, but in a good sense.
Mhm.
So you've got these 5 waves. They're randomized, so you get picked for one of the waves, right? Randomly. It's never the same people. right?
So it's not a question about the language, for example, of the platform that you use, because years ago we used to say that even for French speaking, it was better to activate the English on the platform just to be sure to be in the first wave of the rollout. So it's not the case anymore. Or it's never been the
It
case.
it it probably was the case
Yeah.
because LinkedIn, California-based company, right? Very comfortable with dealing with, and they used to roll out, it would hit California first. And the rest of us in the States were going, where's ours, right? But going back into there, so those waves are randomized, right? They're timed. So they want to go through a complete wave and they want to look at it and go, what worked, what didn't work? You know,
Okay.
was there a collision, a code collision? Let's fix that, right? Is there a better way to do it? Let's fix that. And then they go to the next wave, right? And they try to improve it all the way through. The reason they don't say, we have a new feature, here it is, everybody, because the way LinkedIn was built, it was built basically to display resumes and sell to recruiters, and
Hmm.
everything else was added on, right?
Yeah.
We call it spaghetti wiring, right? When you pull out one wire and five more snap, right? In the process, every time they add something to LinkedIn, it's become very complicated as a site. Things have a tendency to break. Now, I wouldn't want to get all the features all at the same time with everybody if it meant every now and then the platform might be down for 4 or 5 days.
Hmm. Hmm.
If that happened, how many times a year? How much of that would we put up with, right? So the alternative is to do these waves and test it. And again, they're randomized, right? They're timed and they're increasing in size. So the first wave is a small group of people because if it breaks, they want it to break on a small group of people, right? And then they kind of test it out. So it kind of load tests as well as it grows. And again, what's interesting, if somebody doesn't tell you you have it, you might have had it for the first wave and you didn't
Hmm.
find out till the third wave was rolling out. I get that all the time. People will look at that and go, "Ooh, I just read about that. You told me about that, and I found it today." Now they may have had that for 90 days,
Yeah. Sometimes.
but they didn't know what to look for. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes we think we're being shunned, but we're not, and it's done for the right reason. So I understand why they do it. Still, does it frustrate me when I don't have it? Yes.
Mhm, mhm,
But
mhm.
that's the beauty of having this group of people, right?
Yeah,
Who
yeah, you're right.
contribute because that 20% that I can't find, they're finding and they're
Yeah, it's
bringing to
more
me.
community. It's used. It also means what I told you just a few minutes ago. You are the reference. So even when I have a question, I send you a private message to see if it's a new feature or not. And sometimes your answer really disarmed me. Like, what? 2 years from now, I already have it. Like 2 years from yeah, it was the case, but I forgot it. Okay, and Nick,
I'm always going back to those articles and doing a word search, right? And going,
yeah,
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 it was there. Because people will even bring me stuff that think, I think this is new.
and it's
And I
not at
can't
all.
remember because,
Yeah.
165 this year, I can't remember them all, but they're all there in one place, right? It's like the little encyclopedia
Centralized.
for us. We can go
Yeah.
back and find it.
Mick Adam, one of our dear colleagues too here on LinkedIn, says the wave system helps to limit the numbers of tickets for things that don't work. Do you think it's also one of the reason
Oh,
why?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons they also stay quiet at a rollout because if you create a rollout, right, and I'm not in the first wave, the first thing I would do is I would go to help and go, why don't I have this?
Mhm.
And help would have to write up a ticket. They'd have to respond back and forth. You don't have it because it's not your turn. And they don't like to give up that information, right? If we all heard about it, then we'd all be pounding on help and we'd blow up help because help's in bad shape anyway. That's why when you hear a LinkedIn, an actual employee of LinkedIn, a VP of
Yeah.
product, whatever, when they say we've got some new features and you read the article, and if there were 10 new features in there, nine of them you've already heard about. You already had them, right? Or you know about them. You might find one more that, oh, I just didn't know it happened, but I do have it. They won't talk about it until everybody's got it. And at that point, is it a competitive advantage?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Everybody's got it. All right. You want to know as soon as you can, even if you don't have it, especially if you're training people, because we have a lot of trainers in our community, and if they go in and they train something, they want to be able to say, oh, and this is changing, like celebrations, right? It has
Yeah,
changed into a whole new thing. Catch and grow up, kind of goofy names, whatever it is. It's evolved. So you want to be able to, if you only have celebrations, I still have celebrations. I don't have the catch and grow up. If you want to
yes,
be able
you
to
do
train
have
on that,
to.
you have to be able to say, this is transitioning to this.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
here's some screenshots, right?
Yeah,
You want
yeah,
to
yeah.
be able to speak
For instance,
intelligently.
here for the celebration, just the visibility of the option changed, but it was already there for more than a year. I think that we have this. Among
Absolutely.
the new features, Kevin, there are several that raise questions for me. For example, LinkedIn has decided to limit the number of personalized invitations for people using the free version of LinkedIn. Do you understand this kind of decision? How would you
I,
explain it?
I understand it, Xavier, but I don't agree with it. If that makes sense, right? I would not make the same decision. There are two schools of thought on this, and I've talked to quite a few people on the inside.
Mhm.
One was the reason they started this process is that the majority of the spam messages that we get every day, everybody gets them every day, right? The majority of those come from free accounts as invites.
Okay.
So they thought, well, if we make the invite blank, then the spammers are less likely to use the invite process, which I don't buy into that, because spammers are spammers. If the only way they can do it is a blank invite, they'll do a blank invite, right? Then you'll go to their profile, and their profile will have to be convincing enough to make you want to
Mhm.
do it. And they usually aren't. So maybe there is a fail in that process. So that was one end of it. The other end of it is LinkedIn has a new boss, right? And
Yeah.
Microsoft likes to make money, lots of money, right? And so they thought, people like invites that are really networking, that
Mhm,
that are
mhm.
using our tools a lot. They like those invites. So if we can step them into premium by limiting the invites,
Yeah.
then we have now a new revenue stream, right?
Do you see other new features that go this way, meaning pushing
I
towards
hope
paid
not.
versions?
I hope they don't, because I think punishing people to get them to upgrade is not good, right? Rewarding them to upgrade is good. If you
Mm,
want to do AI features, you got no choice, right? I
mhm,
I will pay for premium.
mhm,
That shouldn't be free, right?
mhm,
That takes a
mhm.
lot of money, a lot of expense, a lot of experimentation to build those AI features. Yeah, you should be able to sell those. It is a business, right? we sometimes forget LinkedIn is not this social good platform, right? It's not Craigslist. It's a
It's not an
business.
NGO, of course.
Yeah,
It's not.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
they're
it's
there to
part
make
of the
money. We should always
Microsoft
remember.
group.
Yeah.
And
That if
Microsoft, who has interest also in OpenAI. So
Oh
it
yeah.
might also explain why, well, at least to me, LinkedIn was so late compared to other social platforms. Even when
Hmm.
Microsoft bought the company, it didn't really accelerate, I think, too much. But now that they are in a group very, very at the front in terms of AI, I think they
Yeah.
are accelerating a lot.
When if you think about too artificial intelligence, LinkedIn has used artificial intelligence since day one. Things like the algorithm that affects
Yeah.
our posts, that's a math equation, right? That's a calculative math equation. That is AI. So LinkedIn always had that. But what has changed is LinkedIn's attitude about using AI to give a member a competitive advantage, right? To make my profile better, to make my content better. And I always look at AI, I've got a mixed opinion. I think it's cool. I've been a beta tester for OpenAI since 2021 with ChatGTP and, enjoying that. But I
Mhm,
look at AI is it's an incredible muse, right?
mhm, mhm.
But it's a terrible artist. you know, it can make things that can make you look so bad. And if you don't pay attention, you're going to become mediocre in no time if you just trust it, right? And it can actually
Just
go
to
beyond
assist you.
mediocre. It can put you in legal jeopardy because it'll do things that you wouldn't normally do. You're smart enough, but if you're using it so fast and not paying attention to it, it's like, oh, it's always been good. They're going to put you in a spot. And actually, Ryan Roslansky just had a post maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was a kind of a character of him that ChatGPT generated, right? And he's running, and that's typical of him, half shaved, running around. He can't grow a beard, I don't think, but that's another story. We can,
Yeah,
right?
not
Real men
really.
can. But as he's running, I'm looking at the background. There is no diversity in the background. It's all a bunch of young white guys also running behind him. It's like, and I asked him, I said, did you realize that the bias within ChatGTP has now put you into a visual where you don't support diversity? LinkedIn's always about diversity, right? And giving everybody a fair chance. But the visual that he chose without really looking at it hard enough has a different message in it that is kind of the bias of AI. It's mostly written by 22-year-old males,
Yeah,
right? They
that's
have
a
a
deal.
perspective.
Yeah,
We all know that, right? We were
yeah, yeah,
22
yeah, yeah.
once. Uh,
Among
so
Kevin, among all the AI new features that we have seen rolling out on LinkedIn those last month, are there some that you think are interesting and that would be in your top 10 of the year, or not yet? It's not really convincing enough.
Xavier, I think there's two. One is the summary function. So
Mm-hmm.
if you read an article, right, it will summarize the points of it. I think that has value, not to create a post from that, which people will do, but it has a value in, I don't have enough time, and this is a 10-page article, and I want to get down to the gist of it to see if I'm really going to dive in deeper. I think that summary thing is really pretty incredible. So it's the same if you're on ChatGPT and you throw a big article in there and you put too long didn't read, right? Just the initials. It will do the same thing. It'll run a summary for you.
Yeah.
That I find is really useful. Um, Xavier, the other AI feature that I think is great is the job coach feature, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
is
And you
in
made
the sense,
also a video about it. Yeah.
yeah, about really helping individuals apply. So as you're looking at jobs now, what this AI coach will do is it'll say, don't bother with that one. You're too far off, right? Or if you really want to go that direction, you need to get these kind of skills in place before you apply. Or it'll say, hey, you've got this. This is a perfect match. And let me help you write a cover letter to go with it. Let me help adjust the resume in the process to make sure all the keywords are in there. To me, that's a huge competitive advantage for somebody who is a job seeker. Now, it does require that they pay for premium. So not all
Yeah,
job seekers can pay for premium, and I get that. I
exactly.
hope that's one of those things that they will either roll out for free or at least roll out at a very reduced rate for people who are career transition people. I think they should have a program for that one just as their give back because I think it's a really cool tool. Now, if we all have a competitive advantage, nobody has a competitive advantage, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know what it'll do to the recruiters on the other side.
exactly. So we spoke a bit about the AI new feature, and you mentioned two of them that really had value to the experience you have. Is it the criteria adding value, meaning that you would use to elaborate your top 10 of the new feature? Is this something that we should all focus on, or are there other like technology advanced tool criteria that could help defining our top 10? Because there were a lot of questions about the top
And
20.
LinkedIn is a very personal place, right?
Yeah.
We all have different goals for being on LinkedIn. Some are to find new jobs, some are to create relationships, some are to socially sell. some are misguided and they're spamming, right? We all have different goals on LinkedIn, and that's
Hmm.
the beauty of LinkedIn as a community. It's a platform, right? So to me, to say, I can say these are my top 10. They may not be Xavier's top 10 or anybody else's top 10, right? So I
Yeah,
look at them
yeah.
in that sense of, what do I like? And I try not to influence others in saying this is bad, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because it all has a purpose. Now,
And what
sometimes
about
LinkedIn
your
just
top
has
10 then?
bad stuff, and that we all agree on. But
What would be a new feature that is absolutely a must that you have in your top 10 that you didn't mention until now? And then we share also others elements from top 10.
well, in this one, actually, Mick Adam brought this to me,
Yeah?
and it kind of goes back to the language you choose on LinkedIn, and that's this auto translate your feed. So if you've chosen French as
Yeah.
your core language, right,
Yeah.
the feed now should come to you in French. I wrote it in English, but when you see it, it's in French. And then instead of seeing translate, you'll
Mhm.
see original. So you can click on
Okay.
the see original, and then you might see how I wrote it in English and say, "Wow, translation was pretty
Okay.
bad," or it was pretty good, right? So that was one that Mick brought to the list, and I think that's a really, really cool feature. Now it works in French, German, Spanish, and Portuguese as core
Okay.
languages, and they're expanding it. So I
And do
think
we need
that's
to
a
activate
cool thing.
this? Do we
What's
need to
that?
go to the settings and activate this, or is it by default?
It is by default when you pick your core language. So if you pick
Okay.
French as your core language instead of English, then you should start seeing that in your feed as long as your wave has hit you, right? uh, I know Mick has a good post on it. I've also got it in the list that kind of shows the process and how it works. And I think that's pretty cool because that makes the world much smaller, right?
Mm.
I mean, translate was
Indeed,
kind of cool,
indeed.
but it is still an extra step. Now it's coming in my favorite language. Now I really wish that English was included in this.
Oh
So
yeah.
I didn't have to hit translate because I've got a very global community. This stuff comes across in many different ways. I would like to see it all in English and then be able to see original.
To, could you repeat the languages? It's already
It's in
uh,
French,
possible to French,
German,
Portuguese, German,
Spanish, and
Spanish,
Portuguese.
and Portuguese. Yeah. Okay.
Those
Thank
are
you.
those are the four that it's currently functioning in.
Okay, great. And if I know that Mick is with us, so Mick, do not hesitate to share the link to your post. Would be really happy also to display it on the screen. I also has preparing this live. I asked in a LinkedIn post what were the favorite 2023 features of my network, and you can continue to do so in the chat. Let me just share, for example, here Nujeza, who says that her different favorites are in the top three: the inbox in company pages, the scheduling button, and improve analytics. Well, there are things here because, for example, the inbox in company pages, I'm also really happy that it now happens, and not only for single admin company pages, but for all the company pages.
Exactly.
But I was wondering, do people will really use this? Do you think that people will contact companies via their LinkedIn page? What's your opinion on this?
I've had it active on a couple of my pages,
Hmm. You
and I've
already
only
see
received
messages coming in?
only from other LinkedIn enthusiasts, right, that want to test it. Those are the only ones I've gotten. The the feature that I like better than that for driving that kind of business connectivity, and it's a premium feature, right? To say, but
Yeah.
it's a custom button that you can then place on your profile, but it also follows your headline as you comment, as you're in groups. and he can say things like, book an appointment,
Yeah.
check out my website, that kind of stuff. It is hyperlinked, but sadly, LinkedIn didn't follow it all the way through and make it hyperlink blue, right?
Yeah, it's
But I
black.
have received opportunities off that
Okay.
that to me has real value because again, it's watching me, it's following me everywhere I go on LinkedIn, and that's where we're making connections, we're building trust, we're sharing knowledge. Those are the people that you want to be able to say, oh, all I got to do, I don't even have to go to his profile, I can go right there and say, hey, let's have a conversation.
But let's be clear and precise here. It's only available for profiles. It's not something you could
Yeah,
have
it's not for business pages. I wouldn't be
pages. Okay.
surprised if it doesn't show up for business pages.
I
Makes
would
sense.
also be very surprised because it would be really a premium feature
Yeah,
for company pages, and we both know that company pages are really asked for um, giving some money to have extra features like for recruiters,
absolutely.
for salespeople. In the list of Nugeza, there was also something interesting in the top three: the improved analytics, which is only for creator mode, I think. What do you think about it, and more in general, how do you see the evolution of these creator mode? I think that this year has not been so much new features, etc., for creator mode. It was more the case a year or 2 years
Mhm.
ago.
And again, I think this naturally grew internally because they wanted to get more people creating content.
Hmm.
The issue now is they almost have too many people creating content, right? If you think about our feed, it's a funnel. You can only cram so much into the funnel before you get overflow, right? It's like a
Hmm.
sales funnel or anything else. If you try to push too much in there, it all can't come out the little tube at the bottom, right? And that's our feed. And so I think they looked at that and said, maybe we should slow down a little bit on this. We've got enough people creating. And I think the basically the intensity of AI created posts has really flooded the system on top of all that, right? So I think they've kind of stepped back a little bit on creating in the sense of providing tools for it. And I think now what they're trying to do is they're trying to provide knowledge on how do you create
Hmm.
better content, right? So they've changed their direction a little bit. So now it's more about helping you create better content,
Hmm.
which has value. So I think the program has evolved.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And you think it's gonna still evolve in the next few months? That
I
it's
think it'll
just like
focus,
anything
yeah.
or not?
Yeah, I think it'll focus more towards creating good content, and
Okay.
giving value there. Um, yeah, I don't know where it goes. I think it
You
had
see.
grand plans and it didn't quite work out. And sometimes that happens in business, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Another one. So Nurjeza was writing from Philippines, and Yeva is writing from Latvia. For her, the top five is scheduling both from private and company page. Yeah, we forget it already, but it's been a new feature of this year, I think, or
Hmm.
late 2022. I don't remember exactly. Following engaging from company page. I think it's older than 1 year.
Yeah.
Engaging from different profiles within one post, organic search filters, and premium analytics too. Is this one of those top five of Yeva also in your top 10, let's say?
Um, I don't have any of these in my particular one. And I look at premium analytics, creator mode analytics. They're measuring the wrong things
Why? Just explain
because
me.
they're measuring vanity, feel good, thumbs up.
Impressions?
Yeah,
Yeah.
how many people looked at it? If I'm there to run my business, to build relationships, I want to know how many DMs came from this, right?
Mhm.
How much
So
connectivity
it's
did I
more the
make in that
conversion
sense?
of what you do and not only the
Exactly.
vanity metrics.
Yeah. And that piece is very trackable, and they can definitely do that. So I
Mhm.
want to know more about that. I want to be able to zero in on my audience better. than what they provide. So I think they're a lot better than they used to be, but it still
Mhm.
could be better. I was looking at a year in review, right? And I noticed it doesn't say how many posts I actually posted. And I realized I
Yeah,
didn't
you're right.
keep track of it. And the year before, I used to post about 4 times a week.
Hmm.
I scaled that back to somewhere between 2 to 2.5 a week, right? And my overall impressions were the same. And my engagement was a little better by posting less, right?
Okay.
But I would have
In
loved to have been
terms of
able to
volume, you
say
mean, or the rate of it, or the volume of interactions you are speaking about?
uh, both
Both.
impressions and engagement. By posting less, for me, I
Hmm.
actually created the same levels. So
Okay.
basically, what that means is less work, right? And I had more
Efficiency. Yeah.
posts that were at bigger levels this year than I did last year. And I think some of it, they always say, distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? If I see you every single day, I might be like, Xavier, you got to go, right? If we see each other once a week, like, how are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people forget that, even in posts that goes on, and they need to start helping people understand those kind of metrics, right? And they're
Hmm.
not there. And so I would love to be able to see comparatives like that, that, hey, you've changed your cadence and it's actually created the same or better, right? Those are kind of metrics I would like to be able to see.
How do you explain it's not already the case? It's not available because they have this kind of information. It's a useful one. How do you explain it takes so long before even think about it or trying to at least test it in a
Yeah.
for a few
Some
profiles?
of it kind of goes back to LinkedIn when they put money into stuff, because everything they do costs money, right? They want to spend just enough to keep us happy as members so they can sell us, right? But not so happy, that they're spending all their money, because what they want to do is spend their money on doing the tools that bring in income,
Hmm.
like Recruiter. They're spending tons of money in Recruiter. Sales Navigator, they're spending tons of money, campaign, advertising. That's where they're really putting the big money
Hmm.
behind the platform. The other stuff is kind of icing on the cake to make the members happy enough to stay so that they
Hmm.
have something to sell.
Hmm.
Right? Does that
At
make
least,
sense?
yeah, yeah. So the free profiles are much more like the first step of the conversion to the premium one, of course.
They would like that. They would
Yeah,
like to see
yeah, yeah.
that change.
Do we have an idea of the proportion of profile that pay for LinkedIn, that are in paid subscriptions amongst all the members? They say that they are a billion one.
Yeah.
We all know that they are not all active monthly,
Or
uh,
even real.
or sometimes even real. You're
I've
right.
met a few of those every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, I had to delete bots messages trying to redirect traffic from this live to another one. So
Mhm.
I know that there are a lot of bots and fake, etc., etc. Do you have an idea of how many? What's the proportion of paid members versus the free ones? For
My understanding, and this is just towards premium.
yeah,
I'm not looking at Recruiter or Sales
Sales
Navigator, but just the
Navigator.
premium products is around 15%. It's
That's a
actually
lot.
the world's largest membership program. You think of like British Airways or Air France, or all those membership programs. LinkedIn is the world's largest membership program. So that,
Elon
yeah.
Musk is just dreaming about having this
Oh
kind
yeah.
of proportion of
All
X.
platforms are. LinkedIn is the
Yeah,
only platform, only social media platform that has been wildly profitable since the first year.
yeah, you're right.
Facebook hasn't made any
You're
money
right.
yet. Twitter just loses more money every year, right? The other platforms, they're not
Yeah.
making money. They're
Mm,
paying
mm,
some
mm,
of their bills, they're paying some of their executives, but they're not making money. LinkedIn has been
mm.
wildly profitable, and it's really based
Yeah.
on the fact that they understood who their customer is, and what they had to then sell to get there. And so they've been really smart on that sense.
Question of Mohammed here. It's about the new. He has a question for you, Kevin, and maybe for me. It's about the new algorithm update. Which one? There are so many. Why they make it too hard to reach a large audience? Yeah, there is a trend this year. Of course, the decline of the reach, the decline of the engagement, not speaking about the engagement rate, but at least of the engagement is there. For some people, it's even, I heard about 70 or 80% less reach compared to last year. The question here is, why do they do so? And do you have an answer to this, Kevin? I would have
I
one, but
think
I
some
would
of
be
it is a
happy to hear you.
misconception. LinkedIn is not trying to limit who we get to, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
not trying to make it so easy that anybody can go viral and blow it up, right? Because that has no value either. We always see those posts. We know what they are, right? They have no value. But what LinkedIn is doing, it's crafting algorithms, right, that
Mm-hmm.
are based on what do people want to see. Now, some people will disagree with that, but I look at that, and when we went through a time frame where every influencer, every self-proclaimed LinkedIn expert said you have to do selfies, you have to do selfies, you have to do selfies, right? Everybody was doing selfies, and all of a sudden selfies were out, right? Or you got to post personal, you got to post personal, you got to tell the dirty details of your life, and all of a sudden it's out again, right? Same thing even with document posts, which some experts
Yeah.
mislabeled as carousel, which I can't stand. That's why I always put brackets around everything, because I use the real word.
PDFs. Let's call them
Right? Yeah,
PDFs.
there you go. So that's gone out now. And now they're talking, what's in is just written posts. Well, it's what
Mm.
people get tired of. If we turn on the TV and it's the same show every single day, we look for something else. And it's happening on LinkedIn.
Uh,
So people think, well, all I got to do is I got to do these document posts with selfies in them and some personal information, and I've got it made. And now
yeah.
my reach is 90% down. My reach, I vary everything. I try everything.
Mhm.
And I've actually got the same reach as last year with half the work.
So you would say that for this recipe, this LinkedIn recipe, the best is to mix and not to be mono format and a
No,
single
think
focus
about think about how
on
you
a
like to see stuff, right? If you're getting tired of
Mhm.
stuff, everybody else is too. And don't believe
Mhm.
what again, if somebody out there yells and screams this is the way to do it, it was the way to do it. If they're yelling
Mhm.
and screaming it now, it's no longer the way to do it, right? Anytime we study the past, it can help us predict the future, or it can help us repeat the past, right? The key with
Yeah.
people is we evolve, algorithms evolve. So by doing the same
Mhm.
thing because it worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work today or tomorrow. So evolve, right? Try new things. And I think the biggest thing that you can do is get involved in other people, right? Comment,
Mhm.
get out there, help them, grow them, and they'll come back and help you grow you, right? It is a community. If you do that, if you nurture your posts, you're not going to have any problem with any algorithms.
Yeah, and Mick again is summarizing it very well. Simple rule: don't write for the algorithm, but for your audience. It's a basic one, but it's a very important one to remind.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mick, for your effort here. Time is running, Kevin. What about next month? What about next year? What do you expect? What do you hope? For example, here James Rose is really hoping to have editable scheduled posts. I would be also very happy because when you sometimes write in advance content, even if you are there when it's published and then you comment, etc., etc., you are not able until now to edit those prepared posts. How is it even possible? And then second question, because it's very specific to LinkedIn. In most of the other social media platform, it's possible. And other questions: what are your hopes? What is on your wish list for 2024?
And, I think we touched a little bit on this kind of native video part of the platform. I think
Yeah, at
that's
the
going
beginning. Yeah.
to change the way we do things. I think things like scheduling, they will evolve because they've found out people like scheduling, right? So maybe that ability
Hmm.
to edit will come in. Maybe, they just added in the ability now to schedule polls and multi-image. That was just
Yeah.
in last month, right? So they're growing these
Yeah.
things. So I think those things will evolve. I think that there's going to be a combination of scheduling a video poll.
Oh,
So you'll
okay.
be able
Yeah.
to speak, tell them what you think, and there's a poll component, right? And you'll be able to schedule it all. So
So you mean mixing two kind of formats in the same
yeah,
post,
and be able to
because
schedule
it
it.
makes sense. One is giving the, yeah, one it would be giving the context, and the other one
Yeah.
is looking for the
And you
interaction.
think about it, even if it just images, right?
Makes sense.
Do I look
Yeah.
better in this haircut or this haircut, right? And you have a poll. Normally it was all comment driven, but if it was poll driven, do you like this cover of my new book opposed to this cover? Those are the kind of things that should be pollable, right? That are not. So I think video, image, kind of rich media polls will come. I think that's a next
Hmm.
step, and I've heard there's some development going on in that area. So to me, that's
Okay.
exciting because I've always thought it was missing, and I would get back and excited about polls again if that were available.
Hmm. And I noticed that polls are once again coming back. Uh, it's another wave
Well,
of polls
and you
at the
think about it,
moment.
it,
It's quite
it goes
interesting.
right back to that. What do people get bored and tired of seeing, right? And then you bring something back like
Hmm.
that, and it's fresh again, right? Oh, I haven't seen a poll in a
Yeah.
long time. I love polls now. I hated them last year because that's all I saw. When you see too much of it, you better change what you're providing because you just fit into the blur, right? You always want to evolve.
Yeah. Right. I also ask Richard. We both know
Yeah,
Richard van der Blom,
absolutely.
who is this algorithm specialist on LinkedIn. For Richard, the most wanted feature would be a searchable saved post
Hmm.
tab. It's a great one because when you save post, then it comes in the saved items. Then you need to click on the post
Yeah, it's a
tab,
little
and you
clunky.
cannot.
Uh, Absolutely.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. The second one would be insight in bell ringers and post savers, meaning who ring the bell, of at least how many of them ring the bell. I'm not sure about the efficiency of the bell anymore. What do you think?
It actually has some issues, some collisions with some of the ranking algorithms. That's a
Okay.
problem. And the same thing with hashtags. They've got to find a way to unite all of that into one system, and it's all done by different product groups. Silos within LinkedIn cause kind of bad performance on a lot of this stuff.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm. But I suppose they are working on it. Filters to scan incoming invites. Maybe
Mhm.
the artificial intelligence could help here.
They absolutely, and
Um,
they are working on that, which I think is
okay.
fantastic. And they're getting better. And if you do get something like that, I don't report it as spam anymore. I now report it as nefarious phishing because it kind of steps up a
Mhm.
level, and I'm getting them to now respond to it. So they have a different set of bots, I think, that look at phishing because that's the thing that's blowing up LinkedIn is all these phishings that they're stealing accounts with, right? So they've got more concentration. So do it as a phishing. Same thing. They want some information from you. That's phishing. That's spam. It's the same thing. Report it as phishing. And then if they come back with the bot response, it didn't violate, respond back to it. That same email, respond back and say, yes, they did. Here's how they violated. And you will get them knocked out. So I've been having great success getting them knocked out that way. Yeah.
Okay, okay. What do you think about the automation tools? And there are a lot at the moment. They are contrary to the terms and conditions of the platform, but they are still there. I heard that LinkedIn won a trial
Mhm.
in the United States quite
Against
recently,
two
but
pod groups that were automating comments.
yeah,
Yeah.
thoughts group. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you see this evolve? There is also, I don't remember, Mick might help me
Mick
here.
has an
I
incredible
don't
list.
remember the name of,
Mick has an
sorry?
incredible list of automation to stay away from, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, and also is in contact with another specialist of the
Hmm.
post. I don't remember the name right now, but he could help me here. How do you see this evolve? Because LinkedIn is absolutely aware of this kind of wrong usage of the platform, but it's still
Hmm.
there. And for some, it could be really frustrating to see such successes compared to organic usage of the platform that don't really perform like
Yeah.
exploding.
I think a couple things are going to happen. A lot of these automation programs, what they are doing is they're blocking fingerprinting, right? So that when they come in as
Yeah.
a program and they're basically coming in under your sign in, right? When they come in, they block fingerprinting so that LinkedIn can't tell what the program is. All they can tell is Xavier was the one who did it, right? That's why the member is the one left
Okay.
holding the bag because LinkedIn can't tell because they're blocking fingerprinting. Now, you can look at a lot of these programs and top ones are all doing it. If they're doing that, they're doing something nefarious. Programs now,
Mhm.
AI programs that'll help you do this, help you do that, help you write better, help you put bold stuff into your stuff. Many of those programs, especially the free ones, are scraping data under your
Mhm.
name.
Mhm.
So it's not free and it is a violation. And LinkedIn can't catch the program because they blocked fingerprinting, but they can catch you. That's
Okay.
why
I know.
LinkedIn always says, we can't tell you, we just know you were using automation because they can see the files moving, they can see the tapping into that particular information, and they can see you doing it, but everything else is blocked through fingerprinting. That's why it's the
Yeah.
member who gets caught. And normally, if you look at those companies, um, if they've got a business page, if they've got a website, they'll say all sorts of things like, it's safe to use and this, that, and the other. And if they're not on the list, there is a list of approved automation by LinkedIn. There's
Mhm.
140 companies
Mhm.
out there that you can use on LinkedIn that do automation because they've signed up to be responsible with LinkedIn, to use the API correctly, not to do fingerprint blocking. If you use any of them, you're safe. They're not
Mhm.
the ones
Mhm.
that people
Mhm.
want to use. I mean, like Hootsuite was in there, right? Which was great before you could schedule anything.
Yeah. It used to be,
Yeah, that was the
yeah.
thing.
No, I think it's much more interesting within LinkedIn itself to
Yes,
schedule. But at least we don't have this timetable there, but at least it's free. It's free, and it's not free anymore on Hootsuite, for
very true.
example. Okay, time is running. Really, we are already at the end of this life, unfortunately. Really want to ask everyone who has been following us to thank you, Kevin, in the chat. You volunteered your time and provided us with a lot of value again and during this conversation. Thank you very very much, Kevin, for being with us today. How could we continue the conversation with you via LinkedIn, I imagine?
Absolutely. I mean, follow me. If you engage with me, we'll usually connect. So follow first, connect later. That's how we normally work. If you want some really incredible insights, I think nobody else shares, go and subscribe to my YouTube channel because there's things on there that will
Mhm.
skyrocket the ranking of your profile and everything else that nobody else is telling you. And there's simple things. I look at LinkedIn as a database, and there are best practices for that process, and I give them away in there. They will help you tremendously kind of become the perfect product for LinkedIn, which means LinkedIn's going to promote you. So If you would subscribe, I
Mhm.
would appreciate it. I am just probably 40 short of 1,000 on YouTube. And when I get to 1,000, YouTube pays me. So I appreciate it. Costs you nothing. If you're, there, please subscribe. Even if you don't like my stuff. No, I'm kidding. Let me know. But please subscribe. That's the best way to help me
It's
right now.
great stuff.
And
I'll put the links also in the comments so everyone can follow you. And I must say, and you didn't pay me even a peanut for this. They are really, really interesting information and tips and tricks on your YouTube channel. On your LinkedIn profile, we can also have access to the new LinkedIn features list, because you have 3 different articles
mhm.
for this year.
Yeah, they got too
It's
big.
also a direct. Yeah, it's not too big. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Once again, Kevin, thank you very much. I wish you a very Merry Christmas for you and all your closed ones. I hope the same for you guys and girls. Thank you for watching this. Maybe I see you in a month from now for French-speaking people, because I'll do a live with 2 French women that are really inspiring in terms of public speaking. I also share the link in the comment. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice Christmas period time, holidays, etc., etc. See you soon, I hope.
Thank you. I enjoyed.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.